Welcome back to the Political Chick on CBS's online radio network, chataboutit.com. If at any time you want to interject a question, maybe you're confused about a fact, or you just want to vent, give us a shout. 877-CHAT-212. Again, 877-CHAT-212. And tell us what is on your mind. Right now with us is David Kaiser. He is the international and domestic policy historian, and he's also a professor at the Strategic and Policy Department, that is, at the Naval War College. David, welcome to the Political Chick.
Thank you very much. Since you mentioned that I work at the War College, I think I better say right off the bat that I'll just be speaking for myself this evening.
Okay, no problem. That is no problem. And others like to speak for you anyway, because we saw that email circulating around about how you were comparing President Obama with Hitler. Yes, it is a hoax if you find David Kaiser's name attached to it. But David, of course, is also, at least they did get your title right. And of course, you have a lot of things to say. When I was reading your blog today about President Obama, it looks like he's facing three major issues: Afghanistan, the economy, and the oil spill. Well, right now, the economy, not so hot. The jobs number, it looked okay. It seems like we bumped up about 410 or 20,000 last month, and yet it came to be that 360,000 of those jobs were government-created jobs. Still more census jobs going on. They're only temporary. They're going to go away. So we didn't really pop up that much. We also have consumer spending that's not quite on par as to where they thought it was going to be. It's not even in positive territory right now. So can you tell us what is the most important here that Obama needs to attack?
Well, the country is desperately in need of leadership on a number of fronts. There's a great deal of confusion in the land, and in my opinion, we found that a lot of the assumptions we've been running on for the last few decades just don't work. In the long run, in the medium and long run, the most important issue is the economy, and the most important issue is to find a way to create jobs that doesn't simply depend on a new bubble and on cheap credit, which frankly seems to be the only way that we've created significant numbers of jobs for at least the last 10 years, and which now led to a crash. And we need to find some other growth engine in the economy. Now, I have always described myself as a New Deal, New Frontier Democrat, even though I was born sometime after the New Deal was over. I do think we are going to need the government to take a lead, or also state and local governments even more of a lead, actually putting people to work, as Franklin Roosevelt said. We have tremendous infrastructure needs, among other things. However, I think that this administration actually is very centrist economically, and the president has picked economic advisors who are pretty conventional and who believe that simply by making credit cheap enough, they could get things going in the right direction again. And so far, that has happened only marginally. The stimulus, I know, did save jobs. I know that because I know people in state and local government, and particularly in education, who preside over many jobs that were saved by it. But that's just a question of keeping things from getting worse. And sooner or later, we're going to need something more.
Well, and here's my problem that I have. His solution every single time is to throw money at what's not working. He threw it at the jobs bill. He threw it at a horrifically managed stimulus bill, and yet we're still not seeing anywhere near the effect of his expectations. So he saved a few jobs. Well, once that money runs out, they're going to fall by the wayside anyway, right? And the same thing with the bailouts. We threw so much money at least a few of those banks. Could have failed. I don't know one person who is in agreement with all of the trillions of dollars that he spent his first 100 days here.
Well, with respect to the bailouts, I agree that they were too generous in certain respects, and in particular with AIG. But really, well, we're talking about so many different things. With respect to the financial community, it needs to be severely reformed. We need to go back, to some extent anyway, in the direction of Glass-Steagall. We have to separate actual banking, that is making money available for legitimate business enterprise, from the kind of speculative casino frenzy which is where the big banks have been making their money over the last 10 years. We have to get that under control. We have to get derivatives trading under control, et cetera, et cetera. Now, We are in a major economic crisis, and I happen to think that we're in the kind of crisis that the country goes through every 80 years or so. We have a very high peacetime deficit by historical standards, but we're nowhere near the kind of deficits that we had during the Civil War, during the Second World War, and we...
You mean proportionally, not dollar-wise?
I beg your pardon?
You mean proportionally, not dollar-wise?
Yes, I mean proportionally.
Because we are at a record dollar-wise.
That's right, but proportionally we're not at that point, and we may need to do that. But more than that, I agree with you that there's an underlying structural problem in the economy, in that the economy is not the kind of jobs machine that it used to be. And there are a lot of reasons for that. I mean, half a century ago, the incentives were such, including the tax incentives, that if a company made a lot of money, putting it into new jobs was very much encouraged. Now, as we know, many large corporations are trying to make more money for their stockholders and their management by employing fewer people every year. So this is one of the things that we're going to have to address. I think we deindustrialize too far. We also, I mean, you talked about oil. We could put a lot of people to work making clean energy. This might mean that we would have to pay more for energy, but that is not the worst thing that could happen to us. In fact, in many ways, it might be good for us. So that's another direction I would be happy to see us go in. But my real concern, as expressed in the blog, is that I'm not convinced that we have a leadership that believes that things need to be seriously redesigned. And I'm more in the camp of the Paul Krugmans and the Joseph Stiglitzes, and to some extent Volcker, and people who think that we are seriously off the track economically, and have to return to what made the country great in the middle of the century in many ways.
Well, why not just place an incentive on innovation?
Well, the way to do that is to put money in the hands of people who need it so that they can buy things. And we certainly do have a demand problem.
No, I'm not just talking
about... I think there's plenty of... Well, let me see. There's plenty of reward for innovation. I think somehow we have to do something about the outsourcing of jobs and all the incentives there are to put people to work overseas instead of here.
Not if you create enough innovation here with the jobs that are still over there. I don't fully agree with that. I feel like outsourcing... China's trying to do the same thing by bringing it all back home, and it's not working for them either. They're even encouraging only buy Chinese-made products. It's not working that way. I feel like the free markets know how to operate when they're operating correctly, but it's just that we need to have more innovation. That is the bottom line. That's what we do here in America. Nobody needed an iPod, but we all have one.
Well, we have had innovation in that one sector, but as a historian, I'm sorry to say that we have to face the fact that, again, half a century ago we were a country of engineers, and now, to a much greater extent, we're a country of MBAs and lawyers, and that's one of the problems that we have. And marketing has taken the place of performance in many sectors of our economy and in many sectors of American life, for instance, in politics. I am both excited and in a way depressed by my current research, which is about 1940 and 1941 and the preparation for the Second World War, and the fantastic productive effort that was geared up within just a couple of years to build our armed forces from practically nothing into the second most formidable military force in the world. And I'm depressed because I don't think we would be capable of a productive effort like that now, because we don't have the industrial plant, the managerial skill, all sorts of other things like that.